Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Ah, family. You hate to love them and love to hate them. Today in the rLounge, let's sit around and give thanks that family drama never ceases to make Sunday night dinners boring. Up first, who stole the cookies from the cookie jar? None other than the bad boy boyfriend. Guest stole our Thanksgiving turkey. A multi-year story. I'm confused and frustrated and need to vent. We hosted Thanksgiving this year. Husband and I, our 2 kids, husband's siblings and nieces and nephews, and most importantly, husband's gravely ill mother. We're all at peace that this Thanksgiving and Christmas will probably be our last holidays together. It's been emotional and exhausting, but we really wanted to make a memorable day that everyone would enjoy. Our daughter Mary is visiting from college, and one day before she flew in, she says her boyfriend, Chris, is actually flying to our city to visit friends over the break. Mary asked if he could come over for Thanksgiving. We've never met Chris before, but to be honest, we're not wild about him. As soon as Mary started dating him, we started seeing some worrying changes in her. Our son, who is just a couple years older, confided in us that Mary is getting into the party scene largely because of Chris. We tried gently bringing up our concerns with Mary, but she shuts it down and has started to pull away from us. So because we didn't want to alienate her, we said Chris could visit, but they'd need to stay in separate rooms. She said that won't matter because he's booked a hotel room and she'll be staying there with him the whole weekend. Ah, okay. Cut to Thanksgiving and Mary and Chris arrive. He's not the greatest. He makes a couple of rude, snide remarks throughout the visit and hits the alcohol way harder than is appropriate. My family was in a very earnest mood, if that makes sense. Lots of emotion, and he was just dismissive and flippant and cast a shadow on everything. At one point, everyone started telling stories about their favorite holidays at mother-in-law's house when she would go all out for family parties. My husband and I stopped working in the kitchen to join the conversation. When we go back to the kitchen after maybe half an hour, I went to check the turkey in the oven, and it was gone. Completely missing. I asked my husband if he did something with the turkey, and he was just as confused as I was. We looked all over the kitchen and house and couldn't find it. We go out to the living room and ask everyone if they know what happened to the turkey, and no one knows what we're talking about. At this point, I realize Chris isn't around. I'll pull Mary to the side and ask where he is, because I don't want to jump to conclusions and make accusations. She said he had to leave to go meet up with some friends. I asked her to text him and ask if he knows what happened to the turkey, and Mary kind of rolled her eyes. At this point, it's dawning on me that Chris probably stole the turkey and left out the back door while we were sharing stories with mother-in-law, but I'm just so confused why anyone would do something like that. I can't bring myself to actually make the accusation out loud. So we were left in the terrible position of having everything else ready but no turkey. We had to break it to the family that we had no turkey and everyone is confused and sad. Mary said she had to get going to an event with Chris, which deeply disappointed me. I told her as much, and she just said she'll see us again later this weekend. My in-laws went driving around to restaurants and grocery stores and pieced together enough stuff that we were able to have a meal much later than expected, but it felt like the whole day was ruined. Everyone was kind of murmuring about Chris leaving around the time the turkey disappeared, but no one wanted to actually accuse him out loud because it's such an explosion allegation, and there's not actually any proof. I'm just confused why anyone would do such a thing, and heartbroken because my mother-in-law didn't deserve this day at all. At one point, she teared up, but pulled it together. I'm also increasingly angry with my daughter, but I feel like I can't say anything because she'll just pull away more. Here's some relevant comments from the community. Wait, the turkey was almost ready. Wouldn't it have been super hot and difficult to carry? That's why I haven't formally said anything, because it doesn't make sense how he could steal a hot turkey. I strongly suspect Chris stole it, but it's such a cruel and strange thing to do, and the logistics of it don't make sense. Could it be a neighbor? I don't have any reason to think a neighbor did this. Also, Chris disappeared right when the turkey did. I mean, who else could have done it? It's what makes the most sense, and guaranteed your daughter Mary knows. She's just covering for him. That's some bad karma. Definitely got him on the naughty list this year if he wasn't already, which he probably was. Update. Same post 8 hours later. I was talking with my son today and he told me that last night Chris started taunting him over text about the missing turkey. So that settles it. Chris stole the turkey basically as a big FU to all of us. My son didn't say anything at the time because he didn't want to make people more upset than they already were. One of my husband's siblings is very mad at us for how things turned out and how mother-in-law was disrespected. Sibling is not talking with us right now. I tried calling and texting Mary, but she is so far ignoring me. That's all I have to say about this. But why? Like, what did that prove? Only prove that Chris was the a-hole that everyone knew he was. Moreover, that's a terrible position for your son to be in. I'm sorry. Update. November 23rd, 2023. 1 year later. Hi everyone. This incident has been on my family's mind this week, and my son encouraged me to write an update. Last year I hoped to talk to Mary in person about what Chris did, but she blew me off and didn't visit home for the rest of Thanksgiving weekend. We spoke briefly on the phone a few days later, but she denied that Chris stole our turkey, even though Chris taunted my son about it, basically admitting what he did. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law passed away about 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. The ripple effects were profound. Our family expected her to live through Christmas, so it was very difficult to lose what we thought would be her last holiday. And it was even more bitter that the Thanksgiving that was her actual last holiday was ruined by Chris and his incomprehensible theft. From there, it got even worse. Mary flew in for my mother-in-law's funeral and mentioned that Chris might travel with her to see a concert in our city. We made it clear that he was not welcome in our home or at the funeral. He ultimately stayed at their college, but on the day of the visitation, a bomb threat was made against the funeral home and we all had to evacuate while the police conducted a search. The police were never able to prove it, but I strongly suspect Chris made that threat. My mother-in-law's visitation was cut significantly short and she was denied a dignified end. Some people who wanted to pay their respects ultimately could not because of the evacuation and inspection. One of my husband's siblings has gone no contact with us because they blame my husband and I for ruining the end of mother-in-law's life by inviting Chris to Thanksgiving last year. Mary refused to take any responsibility for how her relationship with Chris has damaged our family. We, husband and I and Mary, have mutually decided to go no contact. My son has minimal contact with Mary and follows her on social media. Apparently Mary and Chris are still together. I'm sorry I have such a sad update, but my family and I are very grateful for the support we received last year. Thank you. Here's a quick relevant comment. No contact means cutting her off financially, correct? Part of it is there's money in a trust from mother-in-law that Mary is legally entitled to, and my husband is the administrator. We also don't want her out on the streets or to abandon her education. That would drag her down even further as a person. Someone else from the community states, I'm not a bisexual ghost who died in a Murphy bed accident. What did I just read? What type of person would steal a Thanksgiving turkey straight out of an oven or call a bomb threat on a funeral home? I hate that OP's in-laws cut them off for inviting Chris to Thanksgiving. How could anyone expect that their daughter's previously mildly red flag boyfriend would steal a turkey from his girlfriend's family, Thanksgiving dinner, like a B-rate cartoon villain? I'm sorry about your mother-in-law, OP. It's so nice that you were able to spend Thanksgiving together despite the turkey being stolen. Although it's unfortunate, I think whichever sibling is blaming you and your husband for ruining Thanksgiving is going at it a bit wrong. Thanksgiving is about being grateful for what we have, and at the time, it was having your mother-in-law there and being able to all spend time together. Chris tried to ruin it, and it seems like he only ruined it for those who don't have the real meaning behind it. What are your thoughts on Chris? Would you go no contact with your daughter? Why or why not? Let us know in the comments below. Up next, a good deed gone bad thanks to sister-in-law, a toy thief. Would I be the a-hole if I asked my in-laws to return my children's toys? My children take very good care of their toys and possessions. As it's nearing Christmas, they have chosen old toys to donate, to keep, and some that they weren't quite ready to get rid of yet. My in-laws don't have many toys at their home, and they said they needed to get more for their toy closet, for all the grandkids. My eldest suggested that they bring the toys to their grandparents for the toy closet. This way they could still play with them and see them when they wanted, and bonus, all their cousins could play with them too. My in-laws were excited and thanked them for donating the toy closet. The first time we saw the kids' cousins, they were excited to show them the toys, and they all had fun playing together. Cut to a couple months later, when we stopped over and they were all gone. My kids asked Grandma and Grandpa what happened, and they weren't sure. They texted my sister-in-law and said, "Sorry, they were really nice and my kids liked them, so we decided to bring them all home with us." My mother-in-law asked if they were bringing them back for their toy closet, and she wrote back and simply said, "No." My kids are kind of hurt as they weren't ready to give them up yet, and they wanted to be able to share and play at their grandparents' house. So 1, would I be an a-hole if I wrote and asked my sister-in-law to please bring the community toys back? For additional info, my in-laws are afraid to anger sister-in-law because she is very easy to hold a grudge, so this convo would follow myself and or my husband, who also feels the same way. He actually suggested we ask her on here. We might be the a-holes if we do this. Let's ask Reddit first. Also, their kids have plenty of toys at home, so it's not like they don't have anything to play with. Also, there are multiple families who come to their home with kids, not just our family and this particular brother-in-law's family. My husband has 4 other siblings with kids. Let's get some relevant comments before moving to the judgment. Did your in-laws tell your sister-in-law she could take the toys? My in-laws didn't tell her she could take them. They didn't even know they were gone, as she must have snuck them out of their house. They asked if she took them, then asked if she was bringing them back, and she said no, and they are afraid to anger her by asking for them back. It sort of comes down to, did you give the toys to the grandparents or store them there? We never really had that specific of a discussion about it, but I take it as we gave the toys to the grandparents to put in their toy closet. My children were not expecting the toys to ever come back to our house. We had donated other toys to local nonprofits, but these they didn't want to give up completely, so they donated them to the grandparents' toy closet. This is why I'm so torn, because they technically did give them away as I see it. The OP is voted not the a-hole. The only a-hole here is your sister-in-law who took them without asking. It's as simple as that. You wouldn't be in the wrong for asking her to return them anyways. After all, they didn't belong to her in the first place, and you can't go through life walking on eggshells around people. Nobody should be afraid of your sister-in-law. Who cares if she holds a grudge? Update post. I have to say that I was surprised at the number of people who said I was not the a-hole. It really made us feel better, and thank you guys for giving us advice on what to do next. We spoke to my mother and father-in-law, and husband told them he didn't like that they were too afraid to say anything. Mother-in-law said that she was afraid since sister-in-law was very quick to go no contact with people. She seems to get sick of people in her life easily and cuts them out when she gets offended. Mother-in-law is afraid to not see her grandchildren. I get the fear, but it's still not right. I asked them if they had all offered, even inadvertently, for her kids to take the toys we left. They said definitely not. I believe them. My husband called my brother-in-law and said, thanks to those who suggested this, hey, we were just over at mom and dad's and there seems to have been some confusion. Our kiddos left some toys there to store and for all the grandkids to share, and I think your wife thought we wanted to get rid of them. Total miscommunication. Sorry about that. We're headed to the area and can swing by now to grab them. Brother-in-law said that was fine, and he didn't even know that they had them. So we swung by, he found them, and helped us pack them all in the trunk. Sister-in-law was getting ready and came out as we were packing up. Her face got red, and she turned around and went back in the house. We stood out for a while, talking to brother-in-law until he checked his phone. He said he had to get inside, and he went in to talk with his wife. We could hear through the walls that she was yelling and crying. After 10 minutes of extremely awkward looks between them, my husband and I, we texted them that we were going to head out, and he came back and looking upset. He said his wife was crying inside and that she kept trying to go back and forth with why she had the toys, and he was confused. We just played dumb and said that our kids couldn't find the toys when we went back, and we were told that you guys had possibly accidentally taken them. He said he was sorry, and we said our goodbyes and left. Sister-in-law has since been posting about how family isn't blood and how she doesn't know who to trust anymore. I'm sure it will blow over one day. We also spoke with our children about how kind they were to want to share with their cousins, that we are a kind and giving family, but that doesn't mean that we let people take advantage of our kindness, that we understood that these were given to stay at Grandma and Grandpa's and how upsetting it was when they weren't there, but that it was maybe a misunderstanding and Mom and Dad got them back now. I think they are too young now, but one day they will realize how their aunt is. Thank you all for suggesting that we stand up for our kids. My husband and I thank you all for the advice. Hope you all have a good holiday. Now for some relevant comments. Why would a grown woman cry over this? I think she was more upset about being caught. It's not like they were crazy expensive or hard to find. We didn't ask why she was crying and yelling, and she hasn't messaged us at all. Is sister-in-law usually entitled? She can be very narcissistic. I usually stay out of it, but this time it just hit too close to home, and we could prove she did it. Usually she is more sneaky, and it hasn't involved my family directly like this before. Could it be a money issue? I don't think so. But then again, you never know another person's budget. Somebody can walk around with their nails done, a new purse, and Starbucks, and that could have been a gift from their mom, a gift card from work, and so on. You know? I know they aren't rich, none of us are, but I don't think they're struggling. It's not worth it to press the issue anymore. Yeah, we're basically going to play dumb. I think that is the best way to handle it and give her a little bit of shame. Maybe buy her kids duplicates for Christmas? This isn't a bad idea. I wouldn't buy all of them, but maybe a version of one of the playsets. I'd be afraid that buying the same exact one would be viewed as passive-aggressive. So one of the items was a bunch of Hot Wheels playsets. I could totally gift them a bunch of cars and a different playset. Someone from the community actually says, "In the closet? No, I'm in the cabinet." Sister-in-law has since been posting about how family isn't blood and how she doesn't know who to trust anymore. Oh my effing god, this pisses me off. I have a family member who does this every time somebody doesn't let her get her way. She burns bridges, and I heard from one of the few people who still talk to her that she laments being abandoned and that everyone turned their backs on her. Like, maybe stop being an entitled, illogical jerk who blows up connections and she won't be alone. Also, that line about sister-in-law holding a grudge? So what? Coordinate with the husband to see the grandkids. Let sister-in-law be mad far away. People like her get that way because others play her game. I think people will know she's crying wolf. You did the right thing and you went by it the perfect way. Honestly, playing dumb is great. Bravo! The only person who looked the fool is sister-in-law, and your brother-in-law seems to acknowledge that too. Let her do all the posting she wants on social media. She's only making herself look bad. Thankfully you got the communal toys back. And way to go for raising kids who are so willing to give their toys to kids who will love them just as much as they did. What do you make of sister-in-law's behavior? Thank you for following along today in the rLounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to share regarding today's content, we want to hear it. See you soon.